And eventually I got into wanting to translate his work. And so he and I spent 2 years of summers, every Sunday for 2 summers, we would meet and discuss the details of my translation of his work. Even though Clemente did not speak English generally and insisted that we not speak English in order to preserve what is ours, the interesting thing is that there was one instance in which he and I both appeared, and it was a very mixed audience. Half the audience was clearly African American from the United States, and the other half was clearly Puerto Rican, of all mixtures. And instead of speaking in the usual Spanish, my man whooped out some English that made me stop and say, well, I'll be damned. This guy's got it all there. Anyway, I translated the work called Caballo de Palo, which in the poem clearly is that broomstick that a child will grab hold of and imagine to be his own horse. So I called my translation of Caballo de Palo is broomstick stallion, right? There's a lot of stuff that I want to read 9 pages, and I may not be able to, but there's a lot of little things that we need to appreciate about this particular work. One, he's a modernist poet from the standpoint of what influenced the last half of the 19th century and what was predominantly arguing with the first half of the 20th century. And he got caught inside that argument poetically. So the modernist, the naturalist, the surrealist, the free versist, all of that is in his work. But there are other elements. The Hegelian and Marxist dialectic are constantly at work. He was responding to, when he was in jail, he studied Hegel. And Caballo de Palo is one of his major responses to the Hegelian dialectic, particularly as it's described in Phenomenology of the Mind. It happens that I read that book too, and so we had things to, you know, sword fight about. In the poem, first, he is the author of the work. But second, he is the selected narrator of the work. And third, Clemente is different people in this poem. The author, of course, the chosen narrator through whom we learn everything about the protagonist, and he is the protagonist, right? So he's all three in the same poem. Clemente, in the protagonist in the poem, that Clemente is in love. His beloved is liberation, right? Freedom. But there is the love of his beloved, and the love of his beloved is Puerto Rico. Consequently, Clemente is caught, the protagonist, is caught in a situation where in order to be true to his beloved, then he must also accept and embrace and love the beloved, the love of his beloved. It's like that. And you'll get a flavor of that. One little last item I want to share with you is that just about every stanza, not all of them, but in this 72-page poem, there are, the overwhelming majority of the stanzas begin with the phrase, lo conocí, all right? Now, there's a key line, which I hope to get to in this rendering. There's a key line in the poem, section 17, where he says, lo conocí y lo conozco. And there, the key to the entire poem. The narrator is not the narrator, but a witness on testifying in court on behalf of the defendant, the protagonist. You with me? So, lo conocí, lo conocí, lo conocí. How do you translate that in English? I knew him. I knew him. But that's 4 syllables versus 3 syllables, right? The music is missing, number one. And it's not just that I knew him. So at first, in my first earlier translations, I knew him then. So that when I got to lo conozco, lo conozco, and I know him now, right? But no, that was not satisfactory because I needed to emphasize to you in English that this is a witness on the witness stand testifying at the trial that eventually sent Clemente to jail along with Pedro Alviso Campos and 7 others, 6 others. One of them, the 9th one, left Puerto Rico and went into South America while he was out on bail. But they were not arrested. Anyway, I just needed to lay that out. So what I did was I translated lo conocí to yes, I knew him. Anyway, let's find out if it works. You with me? Yes. Okay. Number 14. Yes, I knew him. Paying homage to his island, an envisioned risk, which, beneath the river, begins to test death, drowning the immortal. And the river returns with experience drenched like a dying flower, mistakes like outraged nails, squeeze blood from aboriginal calm on the edge of gunpowder and the grief of smoke. And yet, just as nostalgia radiates and moans in meditation, sipping from its own waters, he too, with the heart of an Indian, still keeps gathering up the stars. 15. Yes, I knew him, playing hide and seek with the untamable dangers of love's vehement domes, found amid virginal petitions of aggressive fear, like lips sucking on a flower's crimson charm, distinctly sustained by its own aroma, a fantasy hinting its redness, lost to premature discoveries, like the infant rose of elusive purity, within whose lovely hands that first emotion trembles like a bee whose eyes were trampled upon. Love and fantasy, the bread of purest dreams, glistening between the lips of lovers, uniting humanity through the songs of a people. That purifying liquor of childhood joyously grown, that music distilled through the fragrant friendship of imagination, those magnetic lips of beauty abounding. Yes, I knew him, squeezing rage from his unkept beard with the frigidity of frenzied metal, with folds of glass inside his skin, with rancor howling from his rings, with resentment glaring from his jaws, like a storm licking its pantherine claws. Yes, I knew him, an oak carving out the green puberty of complacency, beautifully restless like the warmth of young timber, like the savoring fruit of possibility, like the odor of sensual touch, like the exquisite shape of rhythm sighing, like the murky leaves of clarity growing, like the color of flirtatious orchids, where resistance changes course with the imagination of crystal, stirred so as not to hide that earthly splendor of wings in perennial contention, cutting a path toward the ripening of inexperienced light. Yes, I knew him, inciting the smooth surface of hardness that inflames the birth of an angelic form, like the thought that quenches the thirst of his own incessant flame along the vertical river of his mind, where waters dying from cold can rise up from the bottom to walk on their own. Yes, I knew him, believing the moon a dreamer immune to the constant flattery of blue-toned dreams, listening to his hands, where the God of earth, a pure people propagated by love, speaks of golden romance on that journey to the poetic heights of workers, giving shape to their own form and essence, where heaven's nocturnal virgin is an aerial statue cut from romantic stone without umbilical light, where the people in love with a universal soul come and go on journeys of interludes with stars, where science is a people flying, convinced that space through its own matter sings with the sweetest tongue of a terrestrial poet. Yes, I knew him, moving hope with the yellow images of suffering rising upon a rarely complacent people, where marvel does not rejoice in the celebrated recourse of transparent mediums, where endurance is the greatest morsel to the exalted traveler, reaping the grace that contains the spirit of a radiant glow, where eternity converges with matter, the way heaven and earth conjoin, where the span of love, of hope, is flesh drawing closer to itself, searching like a wild animal, whimpering softly. Yes, I knew him, shaping the bleeding limits of faith, where misfortune does not finalize its own good, where danger nibbles away at miracle with the emotional suspension of pitfalls, where the immortal word of death cannot find placid support, where miracle becomes a watchful window of eyes closing shut, where mystery admires the image of itself, liberated from the luxury of tombs, where the dreams of earth's corpse are sustained by the very air their own beauty creates. Yes, I knew him, digging out of the soul's activities the potent subsoil of love, shaded by a not so inopportune light, wherein the joyful quality that thickens these ardent fields is transfigured like the tenacious blood of living thought, like a ductile phrase refining the ore of breath within the splendor of dissonant peace, like the serenity of rose-toned legs, or an image singing in perpetual assault. Yes, I knew him, with liberation, his enchanting lover, the sun's lily in love with a dahlia, the maiden promised to a male virgin, looking straight into her eyes and drinking of her charms, the physical reflection of hands inflamed like the bride who greets the morning flower to sing from within its form, a sunflower of carnal words like the murmur of roses, or the dawn of a suitor who, like the night, chases after his stallion, the sprouts of nocturnal clarity, or the bride whose lips death cannot banish, the beloved of men liberating their own stars. Yes, I knew him, sewing his name onto his sweetheart's dress, measuring his shadow against reflection's curves, extracting from his face the quality of the soul, tending to the pain of his imprisoned harbor as she watches her sweetheart awaken the mist, drinking the dew from each leaf of his homeland, eating the meat from the soil of each dream, igniting the towns with the lamp of each fruit. Yes, I knew him, walking among lightning bolts of words unheard, with his love dressed in fiery robes, to go where his lover's call does not hinder his love for his earthly beloved, pouring love through his very eyes, those homes blazing like the fires from towns, sparked by the breath of inaudible air, pouring love through his very eyes, the collective splendor of liberated souls, the splendor of a beloved approaching her lover. And in so being, Those who have mocked the reign or substance of liberation suffer from sublimity with her alone, suffer from lucidity with her alone, yet do not suffer loneliness alone with her, but suffer from multitudes alone with her, suffer from placidity with her alone, suffer from plenitude alone with her, suffer from smallness with her alone, yet do not suffer immensity alone with her. But comrades of love, you must love her. Comrades in work, you must love her. Comrades of the world, you must love her. Comrades of the cosmos, the essence of her star, you must love her. And coming thus is the lightning of his beloved, like the bolt inside the body of a virgin, that those who violate her substance, those who violate her flesh, are now the benumbed rocks whose tongues burn away. And since they cannot swallow her fire, and since they cannot savor her flame, her word spreads like new blood melting within a liberated soul. Is that all right? Thank you.
Gracias, Mr. Reyes. Thank you so much.
Por favor.
Sí.
I'm sorry. You know Jose Ángel or Sandra Maria?
Sí, sí, claro.
My name is Louis Reyes.
Oh, Luis Reyes.
My first name. It's my family name. Mi apellido is Rivera.
I see.
Louis Reyes Rivera.
Muy bien, pues.
Okay. I just
Muchas
wanted.
gracias, Mr. Luis Reyes Rivera.
Thank you.